Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. November is winding down and winter will soon be upon us. Well, if you're watching this review day one on Blip, anyway. But there is something that is always in season: watching people be killed by unknown creatures. A good chunk of the horror movie library could be summed up this way. They exhibit very little unique elements to bring in potential viewers aside from the specific killers, but if the killer is interesting and presented well enough, the movie could very well become a classic. One such attempt at this genre is the 1977 made-for-TV feature Snowbeast, where a popular winter resort town is terrorized by a murderous creature, so monstrous that the authorities won't even believe the stories of the survivors. It's a Yeti. Well, they never say that, they spend the entire movie calling it a Bigfoot that lives away from the other Bigfoot and in the snow. So a Yeti. Anyway, let's take a look at Snowbeast and see if it sends chills down our spine, or just leaves us frostbitten. Man, these opening lines are getting corny. We open to a snowy landscape and... well, I guess this isn't one of those movies that makes you wait 40 minutes to see the monster. We then cut to watching two women ski down the mountain, who seem blissfully unaware of what happens when you pass the 200-meter mark.
Hey, Jennifer, let's go back. But why? It's gorgeous skiing. Because there's something funny.
Oh, don't be silly. It's just an old Windows program. It can't hurt you. Her friend also has no fear of Windows 1.0, but the next time they stop to catch their breath...
Hey, Jennifer. Look at these. Some joker. Snowshoes from some mail-order novelty house.
Snowshoes? If you ask me, those look like they were made by the hand of some random crew member. Right on cue, a strange noise is heard from the woods, so our superstitious best friend says fuck it and leaves the other one to die. Sorry, did I miss anything? No. A drastic shift in tone brings us to the opening of the 50th Rill Winter Carnival as Sylvia Sidney, playing the role of Carrie Rill, runs down the list of events and contests to be held at the carnival, none of which will be seen in the movie.
But you hot doggers will be judged on grace and originality, not on your audacity.
Sticking it to American Idol, 3 decades in advance. We also see the Snow Queen, which apparently in Colorado is a term of endearment, before a random scout moves through the crowd to have a word with Tony Rill, played by Robert Logan.
Tony, this is a fine time to be going skiing.
Weren't you giving a big speech out front about just that?
Hardly, Grandma. We have a little problem.
The manager takes care of big problems, which we don't have at Rill Lodge.
No big problems here, Grandma.
Could you wait until after the news comes back of the killer snow monster before you start sticking your heads in the sand? Tony is brought to the girl who survived the intro, despite the fact that it's obvious that no one is taking her story seriously.
I saw its footprints. I heard it. And it's got Jennifer. And all anybody's doing around here is staring at me like I'm crazy.
Nobody thinks you're crazy.
So what do you think? Oh, she's fucking crazy. Yeah, me too. He asks her to bring them to where she lost track of Jennifer, but she's too afraid to head back out, which pretty much means after this scene she's no longer in the movie.
Tony, we passed an old barn, off by itself, near a stream.
Good girl.
Fine, bitch, that wasn't in the intro! With this information, the search is underway, which translates to another scene of watching people ski. After all, search parties are much more efficient when they all comb one direction at high speeds, completely annihilating any and all tracks they might come across. Through sheer dumb luck, Rick stumbles across the bright-colored snowsuit and broken skis clearly out in the open that nobody else was around to see. He also notices something else. Finding your bloody clothes and seeing the monster might make some people bring the evidence in and call everyone to track her down, but not Tony. No, he's too smart for that. Instead, he tells all the search party to just go home and doesn't bring the evidence to anybody. But much more important than solving the only mystery we've seen in this whole 12 minutes of movie, we need to introduce two new characters. Bo Svensson as the slightly easier to pronounce Gar Seberg, and his wife Ellen, played by the impossible to pronounce Yvette, Mimieux?
Hey, Tony!
Even he gave up. Gar muses to his wife about how Tony is obviously not going to give a gold medalist skier like himself a job due to their past, while Tony is doing his best to describe the creature to his grandmother.
This wasn't an animal. And it wasn't human either.
And it wasn't a plant! Or mineral! Fungus! It had to have been a fungus! But Carrie is having none of this. Some strange killer monster isn't about to ruin the winter carnival.
Tony, we need this carnival. It's what keeps the tourists coming here all year round. The whole town needs it.
I know all that.
Well then, let's just hold our fire until the carnival is over.
This setup is sounding awfully familiar. Never mind. She makes the command decision to seal off the area Jennifer was in as avalanche-prone, and assume that if the creature does exist, it's very modest and will stay put exactly where it is, ignoring the hive of ready victims gathered for the carnival.
And what do you tell Jennifer's parents?
Well, they'd probably take "your daughter died in an avalanche" better than "she was eaten by a snow monster." Now that we've made sure fuck all has been done about the monster, Tony greets Ellen and Gar, and we see the fastest interview in history take place.
I need a job, Tony.
Not anymore, you don't.
Okay, exactly what position was open? And what was he applying for? These are somewhat important details. Whatever that job is, it's not putting up the markers to keep anyone from heading to that part of the resort. He's got one of the original search party to do that important job.
May I ask why? Because I don't want anybody up there. I want the area posted. You get a hold of Ben Cochran in maintenance, you tell him to get ready to put a lot of signs up there.
Saying what?
What?
He's really not good with details, is he? Our ski patrol is confused by his orders too, and disobeys Tony to continue the search anyway, giving us yet another scene of a man skiing around. It's got a foreboding tone to it, but it's clearly just the music doing that. And here's how you can tell.
Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening.
And this. In other words, I'm really tired of watching people ski. And there's still an hour of movie left. Even the actor gets so bored he falls asleep on the slope. It couldn't have been him simply tripping. In a horror movie, that happens while fleeing. Here, he just randomly crashes on perfectly smooth terrain, so I guess that the ski patrol just doesn't have very high standards? Now hanging on a suddenly appearing cliff that really doesn't look that steep, the monster closes in. Wait a minute. Let me try something here. Probably just a coincidence. And we all know what's coming. A commercial break! We return to find the old barn the girl talked about finally make an appearance in the film as a random family shows up, and the child is very disturbed by something inside.
Oh my. Oh.
Strangely, I think he would have reacted worse if his kid had found a Playboy. And Blip wouldn't have let me show him that. Still not bothering to inform us what Gar's job is yet, Tony instead tells the audience that he and Ellen used to be an item before she married Gar over him, which gives us some rather awkward dialogue.
I've been having a lot of fantasies about you for the last year.
Fantasies about me? Good or bad?
Not bad.
Plus, he's been kissing her in front of her husband, and nothing happens. No animosity comes from that. This is the 70s, not the 60s! But Gar has subtext, too.
Do you know that he hasn't been up on his skis since he won the gold medals?
That's incredible.
This is why you interview someone and check their references before hiring them at a ski resort. Amazingly lucky, though, that's not required for the job he had in mind.
Gar, are you still a good marksman?
Explaining to him in the privacy of the most illogical place to have a swimming pool, Gar feels insulted that Tony would ask him to kill a harmless, innocent Bigfoot until Tony mentions the recent events in the slopes.
I found her jacket the other day. It looked like it'd been ripped off her body and it was blood-stained, and I believe that thing killed her.
Now don't make me repeat that! I don't like giving details. While this is going on, Ellen catches word from the local law enforcement of something that sounds awfully important.
Hey, look, I gotta get right back out there. As soon as he shows up, will you tell him the sheriff wants him to come right out to the old Fairchild farm?
She doesn't know her husband knows something she's not supposed to, but luckily for her, she decides to skip over going out there with him, and instead heads out alone to get the scoop on what's going down. Which translates to more shots of someone skiing. Yay. While she examines the shallow, handmade footprints, Tony and Gar meet up with Sheriff Paraday, played by Clint Walker.
I understand she was a guest at the lodge. I was hoping you could help me identify her.
I must have seen her somewhere. Maybe I'll recognize her when I see her face.
She doesn't have one.
That's okay. Does she still have her ass? He recognizes her snowsuit, and the sheriff is surprised that he knew what she was wearing and questions the way he dealt with the search party.
That's right.
So why didn't you show them the jacket?
What?
That's getting into detail, Sheriff. He's not good with that. He claims it was left as a marker, and he wanted to confront the sheriff first about the great big white monster he saw, but Paraday is a bit skeptical.
You know, she may be right about it being a grizzly. Winter attacks are not all that rare, you know.
Cole, it's not a grizzly.
It wasn't an animal! And it wasn't human either! The sheriff convinces Tony to stick to the grizzly story to prevent a local panic over a killer Bigfoot, while satisfying him with at least one decision.
Tomorrow morning, when it gets daylight, I'd like for the three of us to sneak out here, track that thing down, and kill it.
I'd do it tonight, but do you have any idea how hard it is to get nondescript monster hunting permits in Colorado? Unfortunately, though, Ellen is being stalked by the monster, so we get to watch her ski some more. Yvette, go home. You're drunk. For some reason, the creature lets her get back on her feet and ski away, though she still doesn't go home. Instead, we get to see what's so important going on tonight, as the film crew rented out a local school gym to shoot the Snow Queen crowning ceremony. Confirmed monster, but the town continues celebrations like normal. This should lead to...
Betty Joe, smile.
You know, that's an awful lot like... Nah. Betty Joe's mother just so happens to be pulling up outside while all this is going on, so instead of hitting reverse and driving away, or running the fucking thing over, she just sits there and waits for it to kill the shit out of her. What? She was the mother of a very minor character, and this was the only scene she was in. No, I wasn't remotely attached. We come back to... What the hell? Well, let's hope that dialogue wasn't important. Carrie shows she truly cares as she apologizes for keeping Tony from taking the precautions necessary, now that the damage is already done, and Gar returns home to find his wife still hasn't returned, but doesn't show any concern in the slightest towards that, as he's got to get over the fear of skiing as a normal human being and not a legend. Yeah, he didn't want to become a has-been professionally, so he just went from world famous to agoraphobic. Much better idea. Of course, he heads out to overcome this fear, though it helps that there's nobody to witness him embarrassing himself in the middle of day for night, so we get another scene of watching people ski, but at fake night. with the sun in the background. Day for night fail. He eventually reaches the barn, and it turns out that this is where his wife decided would be the best place to camp out while she wasn't important to the plot.
I was so terrified. Oh.
You were gone? Oh, yeah, I was worried sick too. For some reason, they decide that the building our furry friend dumped Jennifer's body in is the perfect place for a romantic getaway and opt not to go home, but spend the rest of the night pouring each other's hearts out, reinforcing their relationship. Nothing more romantic than freezing temperatures in a mutilated woman's corpse, is there? Once the day for night filter has been removed, the monster shows up, none too pleased to find vagrants trespassing in his winter home, so Ellen and Gar play peekaboo with the monster for a while Tony just so happens to roll by with the sheriff.
Hey, Tony!
No. Why would the sheriff be remotely concerned that these two were contaminating a crime scene with their activities? After yet another fade-to-red commercial interruption, we return to find the sheriff call everybody at the lodge out to proudly display the corpse of the beast. Now this plot is getting awfully damn familiar.
Are you that sure that it was the wrong thing?
Well, I don't know, but it seems to me that the best way to find out is to cut it open and see what's inside.
It's Jaws! It's the winter version of Jaws! The woman killed in the intro, the town's economy being dependent on this one festival, and now catching the wrong animal. But while Jaws was a 2-hour movie and this one is only 86 minutes, we don't have time for the creature to kill again before they convince the sheriff that they got the wrong animal and need to head out once again.
What you're saying is you want us to go up there, just the two of us, and destroy this thing.
That's right.
Just the three of us.
Just the four of us.
We're gonna need a bigger car. Never mind. It's a pretty damn big car. After a very long scene of them snowmobiling around, the creature decides to very gently mess with their belongings at the camper. That bastard! This is mildly inconvenient! They decide this is a good sign since it means he's in the area, or they're being taunted by a group of teenagers. Either way, whatever shows up they'll shoot, so Gar and Faraday take first watch while Tony and Ellen establish how they feel about each other. Again.
Friends?
Friends. Always.
Benefits? Again, the monster is in the area, but decides he should wait until morning before he attacks, knocking down the random collection of logs that conveniently just materialized onto the scene.
Cole! Cole! Are you hurt?
Wow, took you long enough to get down there to help him, judging by the thickness of the icicles on that car. As the beast is right there, they say fuck it and leave the sheriff to die. Why does the monster insist on killing everybody during the commercial breaks? Alone, without the slightest form of transportation or weapons, they realize that they need to head back to the camper to retrieve the guns if they want to be ready for the movie's climax. Could you at least pretend those are real logs and not foam props? Just a little bit?
Ellen, can you see the rifles?
No.
Where can you find anything?
There's some skis.
Oh, great. Throw them up.
No, I don't think it'll fit if you just change the climax to a freestyle challenge against the villain. I mean, you've pretty well established the horror movie theme up to this point. Tony checks the cab, finding a revolver, luckily just in time to shoot the cameraman several times.
Gar, finish him!
Never mind, he just spent 75% of the ammunition, and it didn't work. Gar pursues the monster anyway, and soon Tony follows him with his rifle and Gar's wife at the ready before the creature attacks. And I may as well say that the animatronic shark in Jaws was infinitely more realistic than whatever the hell this is supposed to be. Gar uses the rest of the ammo, but that just pisses it off, so bracing the ski pole against a tree, he stabs it, and somehow, while bullets are useless, a 2-inch spike is far more than the beast can handle, and it falls down the quasi-cliff, completely out of frame the whole time. And that's it. It just ends there. I guess we're supposed to assume that the death of the sheriff won't be an issue, even with them not bringing the monster's body back in with them. Anyway, that was Jaws, Snowbeast, and, well, it was Jaws. Not a direct scene-by-scene copy, no, but there are more than enough similarities between the two films that it can't just be coincidence. That could have worked conceptually, Jaws in reverse being winter and land-based, but when the people don't react to the situation based on its own merits, but instead on the manner in which things were done in Jaws, it's clear the writers were simply lazy. Plus, the suit and makeup for the creature is just awful. There have been worse, yes, but this is just sad, which makes it sort of a good thing that you don't see it very often in the film, but honestly, this wasn't that low budget of a movie. The actors are well known and pretty famous in their time. Many of them had long careers after this film, and most went into it already well known. That, combined with a low budget setting, makes it hard to understand how the monster effects could be so poorly executed. Speaking of the setting, I'm all for snow and recording in actual cold weather, but how many scenes of skiing did we really need in this movie? Yes, it's a ski lodge. Yes, people ski, but there's a reason why movies that take place in cities don't spend 20% of the film watching people commute. It's boring. Overall, Snowbeast is a relatively poorly executed horror movie that rips way too much off of Jaws to be respected, but the cast and the unintentional silliness of sticking so close to the Jaws plot does keep it a little entertaining, earning it 2 drunk skiers out of 5. And they make such a big deal about Bigfoots being specifically in the Pacific Northwest, never mind Sasquatch legends from all over, but I guess it makes sense if you realize that they have to complain about the monster's location as if it were a great white shark in the wrong waters. Thank you all for watching, I've been Shado, and remember, fading to red is cool. The first time.
This wasn't an animal. And it wasn't human either.
November is... Tara. It's hard to read my lines when you're doing that.